Thank you, Sophia, and welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Dawson. And may I present to you the party that dodged the noose, the party that just yesterday was led by the least popular Prime Minister in history. But what a difference a day makes. Fawning, simpering and drooling. And that's just the media. The Labour Party might have a new gaffer. But here's the question. Is it the same old donkeys out there on the park?
You know, and what is objectionable about him? His racism, his misogyny, his incredibly peculiar relationship with Russia.
And the truth.
And the truth, most of all the truth.
Ooh, there's more Trump derangement syndrome. This time, Ed Miliband, the new Foreign Secretary, in an interview for GQ magazine with his chum, Alistair Campbell, speaking about President Donald Trump back in 2018. Indeed, just one day into his new appointment, it has already emerged that the White House is deeply concerned by the appointment of Mr. Miliband. But of course, there's more. That's right, Andy Burnham's right-hand woman, perhaps his closest ally, Louise Haig. Well, she's the new First Secretary of State, but she is also, of course, a convicted criminal. Not that you would know that if you're reading establishment media.
The Calamity Cabinet under Andy Burnham. Step into the gilded halls of Westminster, where the ink is barely dry on the latest cabinet reshuffle, and yet the aroma of impending chaos is already filling the air. Welcome back to Britain Underneath, your essential space for unmasking what really goes on behind the polished veneer of British power. If you want to stay ahead of the narrative and uncover the truths the political establishment prefers to keep buried, take a moment to subscribe right now and hit that notification bell. It genuinely helps the channel bring you these sharp, unfiltered analyses every single week. Now, let us dive straight into the drama unfolding at the very heart of government.
And also,
I don't know if you saw the documentary on Channel 4 about rape gangs over
No,
this.
we want to blow that little trumpet now, do we? Yeah, okay.
There was a real issue.
Let's get that dog whistle out, shall we? Yeah.
Yes, another top Andy Burnham ally, Lucy Powell, is the new Education Secretary, and there she was on the BBC suggesting that referring or even mentioning the rape gang scandal is some kind of racist dog whistle. And also, yeah, that's Pat McFadden, the man who will continue to oversee the Department of Work and Pensions. Now, let's remember, under his watch, the department's budget has ballooned to a size greater than the GDP of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And indeed, if the department itself were a country, it would be the 38th wealthiest country in the world. And finally,
before the last election, I worked as a solicitor in Manchester city centre, and I would travel in to Manchester every day for what is now my constituency.
lo and behold, it's a new business secretary with no business experience at all, who once falsely claimed to have worked as a solicitor in the Commons and was forced to apologise and correct the record. Well, Mr Reynolds gave the first media round of his new government this morning, and he couldn't even be bothered to come onto GB News, Britain's #1 news channel. So how does that bode for the rest of this government? Are we seeing yet another calamity cabinet? I'm delighted now to be joined by the former Labour cabinet minister who served with Andy Burnham under Gordon Brown, and that is Sean Woodward. Sean, it's a pleasure to have your company. What do you make of the appointments so far? Seems there's a few skeletons in the closet.
Well, look, I know it's not to your taste, Martin, but what's actually struck me is first of all, Andy Burnham has come in, and I actually don't see that he's put a foot wrong. He did a speech on Friday. He laid out his territory. He did his cabinet appointments yesterday. He appointed John Healey into the job of being the new Chancellor. And the ones that he's unveiled immediately and then in the course of the rest of yesterday evening, I think by and large people could see that what he was choosing, and I know you perhaps don't regard this, but I think the public do, he's chosen competence over ideology, and he's put together a cabinet of pretty experienced people. And it may not be the persuasion of some people in terms of their politics, but I have to say, as a sort of reasonably seasoned operator, I think this is a very interesting cabinet. And I think that it'll be for the proof of the pudding. We ought to see how these guys do in office. But I actually think he's done something pretty clever here. But now we have to see how they do in the office themselves.
Is the cleverest thing that Andy Burnham has done, perhaps, is to send Ed Miliband on an endless global tour where he can't cause any more problems back in Britain over net zero?
Well, that might upset Reform and it might upset a number of media commentators. But I think that what he's done is actually chosen to put somebody who's got a lot of experience into that job. Britain's relationship with the rest of the world matters a great deal.
A new leader has taken the helm, promising stability, competence, and a refreshing departure from past political missteps. But as the fresh faces assemble around the table, one cannot help but ask whether we are witnessing a genuine revival or merely the same old political theatre with a slightly altered cast. The media commentary has been swift, sharp, and remarkably unforgiving. Across the broadsheets and broadcasting studios, critics are already branding this new frontbench as a calamity waiting to happen. Is that a harsh assessment, or does a closer look at the key appointments reveal significant cause for concern? Consider the broad diplomatic portfolio, now entrusted to an experienced figure whose past commentary on foreign leaders is re-emerging at the worst possible moment.
But let's be in no doubt here. What we saw on Friday and what we saw yesterday and what we've seen today is a prime minister who's taken charge and who has a story to sell and is setting out his stall with a vision, which in truth he says is for the next 10 years. And, you know, he's already taken a couple of actions. They're small. Taking VAT off energy is a very small step. But nonetheless, off those bills, it will make a difference for people. And I think we should remember that he has started as he means to go on. I think we're going to see a lot more. But I think this is his hallmark. This is where he's going. Now, in 2 or 3 years' time, there'll be a general election. And if people don't like it, then that will be the end of this government. But I think he started very well.
When your senior diplomatic representative has a well-documented history of sharp verbal broadsides against crucial international partners, sitting across the negotiation table becomes an exercise in supreme awkwardness. Relations across the Atlantic are delicate enough without past critical quotes echoing through the corridors of the White House. While supporters argue that past rhetoric can be smoothed over by current pragmatism, critics wonder if diplomatic credibility has been compromised before the first official bilateral meeting even takes place.
Sean, is it a prerequisite, as you say, for our foreign ministers to have Trump derangement syndrome? David Lammy called Donald Trump a white supremacist. And here we go again. Ed Miliband calling him a misogynist, a racist with a peculiar relationship with Russia. How on earth can Ed Miliband sit in the same room as Donald Trump and be taken seriously?
Look, I'm not a huge fan of name-calling. I never have been. I never will be. And one of the things I welcomed from Andy Burnham last Friday was his setting out that he wanted a different kind of politics. We'll see if that's actually what happens. But if we're going to base it on name-calling, Martin, let's remember Donald Trump's called people a fair few names, including, for example, his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. You and I can remember how he referred to little Marco and many other things in the primary that the Republicans had to even choose their Republican candidate. Name-calling is unfortunately something that we do far too much of. It's very bad in our politics. It tends to produce, at best, the worst kind of politics. And at worst, it produces the kind of thing that I suspect, we're seeing and hate crimes and terrible things can happen. So I think Andy's saying I want to end that kind of culture is a good thing. It's going to be a bloody hard job to do, but I would welcome it.
Moving down the table, the spotlight falls on domestic policy, where key portfolios are held by figures carrying significant political baggage. We see strategic oversight given to individuals who have faced intense scrutiny over past legal matters or controversial public statements regarding sensitive societal issues. When public trust in institutions is already fragile, appointing figures who dismiss serious public concerns as mere rhetoric can alienate the very populace you claim to serve. Meanwhile, key economic and social departments are tasked with managing budgets larger than the national output of medium-sized nations. Overseeing such colossal expenditure requires extraordinary oversight, yet questions persist over whether the current leadership possesses the requisite operational experience, or if taxpayers are simply funding administrative expansion without improved outcomes. Then there is the management of business, commerce, and national enterprise. In an ideal world, the steward of national industry would boast a proven track record in enterprise or deep commercial expertise. Instead, we find appointments raised on political management rather than market execution, leaving industry leaders wondering if Westminster truly understands the pressures of the modern economy. When government representatives decline opportunities to face direct scrutiny on mainstream platforms, it hardly inspires confidence among the public or the markets. Yet, fairness demands that we examine the alternative perspective. Defenders of this new administration argue that what we are seeing is not a calamity, but a pragmatic calculation. They maintain that experience in political warfare counts for more than ideological purity, and that appointing seasoned hands brings stability after years of political turbulence. Early symbolic policy gestures aimed at easing immediate household pressures are held up as proof that this government intends to focus on practical solutions rather than political point scoring.
So where does the truth lie? Are we observing a masterstroke of political pragmatism, or are the cracks in this cabinet already too wide to hide? The coming months will reveal whether this administration can deliver on its promises or if it will collapse under the weight of its own internal contradictions. Thank you for watching Britain Underneath. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave your thoughts in the comments below, and return for our next video as we continue to expose the hidden realities shaping British politics.